Hey everyone, it's James George with Creative Beacon, and this week we're going to talk about working with paths inside of Illustrator. So, you know, paths are pretty easy to work with inside of Illustrator. Whenever I want to create shapes and things like that, I typically use Adobe Illustrator. To me, it's always seems simpler. So, um, I'll show you what I'm talking about. When you create a circle inside of Illustrator, it's typically made of four anchor points that are connected um, by an arc. So that's basically it. But what if you don't need the whole circle? See, a lot of people try to do a bunch of complicated stuff that they really don't have to. One thing that I do is, let's say that I only needed a half a circle. It's really easy just to make the whole circle. Click on one specific anchor point, and that anchor point is active. And then the rest of them are inactive because they're hollow. If you just hit the delete key, then you have the half circle. And if you want to finish it, just grab the pen tool, and you can see that the typical symbol next to the pen tool is an asterisk, which means that you'll create a new path. But when you hover over an anchor point, it turns to a diagonal line. That means that you can continue the line segment of this half circle here. So when you click this, it connects it, and then you can go to close it. Now you see when you hover over the second anchor point, it turns into an open circle, which means that it is creating or closing a shape. So when you click on that, your shape is full, and you can change the fill or do whatever you want to do. But what happens when there's not an anchor point? Now let's say that you have this square, for example. Now if you want to, let's say you wanted to slice this diagonally, you could theoretically add an anchor point here and an anchor point there, and then delete each line segment. What's interesting about this is, I'm going to add a few anchor points here just so you can see what I'm talking about. If you don't click on anything, if you don't have anything active and you just select a portion of a shape, then this portion is considered active while the other ones aren't. So if you hit the delete key, you'll notice that that piece itself goes away, but the rest of the shape remains. It doesn't delete the whole shape, and that's when you use the direct selection tool. And so it doesn't delete the entire shape, it just deletes that part. And so if you deselect that and you select this little piece and delete that, it just deletes that one little part. Now keep in mind that the anchor point is still there, so you'll want to get rid of that. You don't want to have any stray points or anything in your document. And so that's one way of doing it. So I'm going to back out of this and get rid of those. But there's another way that you can divide a shape, and this is pretty cool. If you take basic line segment tool and just click and drag, you have an active line segment. And then all you have to do is go to Object, Path, Divide Objects Below. So keep in mind that the square is not active. If it is, then it won't work and it will give you an error message. So you don't have to select the shape. You just draw a line over top of it. Object, Path, Divide Objects Below. And what it does is it divides your square along the line that you placed as the dividing point. So these are now two separate shapes. That's really handy when you're creating an illustration and you just need to trim off a little piece. It's really effective. Like, let's say you're creating custom type and you want to trim off, a stroke at an angle or something like that. You can do that using your line segment or your pen tool and using that little trick I showed you. Well, I think that's about it for this week. But if you like this video, please be sure to go to creativebeacon.com and sign up for my weekly newsletter. You'll get tips like these in your inbox once a week.